First and foremost, shout out to Greco Jones and Don Pin. Both of you guys left me a generous super thanks in the last tier list Godzilla ranking video that I did, and I appreciate it very much. I knew that video would not do very well on the channel in general. It's just something fun that I wanted to do, but you guys definitely made it worthwhile, so thank you. And on that last tier list video, I ranked all of the kaiju in the Godzilla films other than Godzilla himself, because I figured if Godzilla was on the list, he would definitely be up in the top tier, so what was the point of even including him? But that's also because I figured Godzilla deserved his own tier list, where we rank every single Godzilla suit, every design, and go through the entire catalog of Godzilla to see who reigns supreme. And this is a list that I honestly haven't thought too much about overall, so I don't actually know where I'm going to rank all these Godzilla designs as we go through. But unlike the last tier list, this is one that I found that was already created, that actually had the name of all the suits and everything, that made it very convenient. So shout out to whoever made this tier list. I'm not exactly sure who did, but I did change the criteria on the side to match my last one, because I think it's a little bit more fun than just doing S tier, A tier, B tier when we rename them to represent the Godzilla franchise a little more. So S tier, the highest it can go, is the Skreonk tier, S Skreonk tier. We know Godzilla's favorite catchphrase. Then we have the Titan tier at number 2. This is A tier, so this is really, really good, just not quite masterpiece level, but almost there. Then we have Monster Island tier, and these are perfectly suitable designs. They're good, I like them. They're not great, they're not masterpieces, but they're good. Then we go down to the bottom 3, where it gets a little bit less great in the quality, where the Zillion tier is going to be serviceable. Like, it's fine, it's all right. Nothing like stupendous about it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of okay. Then we have the Army Tank tier, which of course, you know, in the Godzilla franchise, the Army Tanks, they do their best, but they ultimately come up short all the time. So the Army Tank tier are going to be suits and designs that are just not hitting the mark. They tried, but they didn't get there. And then the final tier, F tier, the worst tier, is Gabara tier, because Gabara sucks. And starting right off the bat with the original, the OG, the 1954 original Ishiro Honda Godzilla. Obviously, this one goes up into Skreonk tier number 1. It is the basis for all future Godzilla designs. It is the most authentic Godzilla design. It is the first Godzilla. Perhaps there is some bias here, perhaps because I consider the original Godzilla to be one of the greatest films ever made, not just Godzilla films, but one of the greatest films, one of the greatest monster movies, one of the greatest commentaries on the dangers of humans creating technology that can potentially destroy the world and Mother Nature striking back at us. That original Godzilla is forever solidified as one of the greatest movie monsters of all time. I cannot take that away from him. And without this original Godzilla design, we wouldn't have any of these other Godzillas. We wouldn't have a template. We wouldn't have an idea of what to base Godzilla on. It all comes from this. So this obviously has to go up in the top spot. Oh, perhaps I should have mentioned this before we got started, but these are obviously my personal picks. This is not meant to be objective whatsoever. And also, even though I put the original Godzilla up there, which I think most would agree that he deserves to be, but I usually don't put a ton of characters up in the S tier. Just because I like a character doesn't mean they go up in S tier. It really has to do with many things as far as just how I feel about the aesthetic of the design, the legacy, the impact, all of that kind of stuff, and just the original Godzilla just hits the mark on every single level. The same cannot be said for the next Godzilla design, which this one was used in Godzilla Raids Again. Honestly, the downgrade is extremely noticeable, and it is one of my least rewatched Godzilla films. In fact, honestly, other than introducing Anguirus, you know, I think it is kind of one of the worst Godzilla films. Not the worst, but it's definitely in like the bottom tier. You can tell that it was rushed. You could tell they didn't really have any idea for a sequel. The original was meant to be a one and done, so they kind of threw this one together and it just never really worked out that well. Again, I'm not basing this on the films themselves, but on the Godzilla design, but you can feel that even in the design. There's a lot of puppetry on display here, which doesn't work as good as the suitimation, and the fight scenes between Godzilla and Anguirus are something to be desired. I think that the Godzilla Raids Again Godzilla is going to go in Army Tank tier. It tries its best, but ultimately they just didn't have enough time to put this together to make it as good as it needed to be. The next one, of course, from King Kong versus Godzilla. Now, I have heard other Godzilla fans say that they hate this design, but I'm sorry. And I'm sure that this is going to be a controversial list, and my list won't look anything like yours, but this is one of my favorites. I love this Godzilla design. I don't know why people have such a problem with it or why people don't like it. Maybe, again, a lot of these Showa movies I have watched since childhood, since I was like 5 years old, so they are just so engraved into my mind. Maybe if I came into the Godzilla franchise now, trying to be a fan, going back and watching these movies, I would feel differently. But in my mind, this is one of the main Godzilla designs that I think about. I honestly love this design. I love the sort of reptilian crocodile face that he's got going on here. I love his little like claw clap. I don't care, man. I know some people don't like that, but I do. I've always been a massive fan of this design. I am going to put this in... good God. I'm going to put it in Titan tier. The next one here, Mosugoji from Mothra versus Godzilla. Godzilla versus Mothra. Godzilla versus the Thing. Whatever you want to call it. This one, too, I think is fantastic. I think this is, in my opinion... Other than the original, I think this is the best of the Showa era. I think Godzilla looks mean. He looks nasty. He looks like the villain that he's meant to be. I like the sort of angry eyebrow sort of look that they gave him. This suit is also iconic because there's that scene where he catches on fire and just keeps going. This movie makes Godzilla feel like this. I think it's the last Showa movie that really makes Godzilla feel scary and intimidating before he started to become more of like a good guy or a hero. This one hits the mark on all levels for me. For me, this is Screonk tier. I think other than the original, this is the best of the Showa era, in my opinion. All right, the next one here, Dasenso Goji. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it correct, but I believe this was the one in Godzilla versus Astro Monster, or Invasion of Astro Monster, Godzilla versus Monster Zero. A little bit when Godzilla was becoming a little bit more child-friendly, when it was becoming a little bit more of the hero and the savior. So they started to peel a little bit away of his more villainous design and give him a little bit more expression. Nothing really wrong with this one. I think it's okay. Monster Zero is one of my favorite Godzilla movies overall. Not one of my favorite Godzilla designs, but I think it's okay. I don't really have a problem with it. There's nothing about it that I hate, so I guess I'll put it in Monster Island tier, where I think it's all right. I think it's all right. I think it's good. The next one, though, I cannot say the same. Okay, so this is the Godzilla that's in Son of Godzilla. Holy freaking crap, dude. This one is bad. The face just looks so horrible. I cannot even begin to describe how the face looks to me. Every time I see it, I hate it with 1,000 burning passions. I do think this is one of the worst Godzilla designs. And I'm not just trying to hold it against the Son of Godzilla movie, because honestly, even though I'm not a big fan of it, I don't hate it or anything, but the Godzilla design in this movie is just awful. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just going too far in the child-friendly department, but to me, this is Gabara tier. This is, I think, I'm trying to look at the other Godzillas here. I think this might be the worst. I think this might be my least favorite Godzilla design. All right, the next one, and again, I apologize for my horrible pronunciations, but Soshin Geku Goji, I believe this is the one from Godzilla vs. Gigan, which I don't know if it's the suit's fault, but the suit in that movie just seems to be deteriorating. Like, it just doesn't seem to be doing too well. Like, it's on its last legs. I think they also used it in... Oh, yeah, they also used it in Smog Monster, which, if you watch that movie, I mean, Godzilla gets all kinds of fucked up, so the suit really is falling apart. I think for me, this is going to be our first kind of middle tier, first Zillion tier, where it's like, it's okay. You know, I don't really have anything too positive to say about it, but it's also not like the worst. So Zillion tier is just kind of like middle of the road. Like, it's like, it's all right. It's serviceable, I guess. The next one I also have a little bit of bias for, because as a child, this is from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which was one of my favorite Godzilla films, still is to this day. I watch it all the time. I don't care, dude. Listen, whenever I'm having an existential crisis, which is like, I don't know, a couple times a week, I will put on old Showa Godzilla movies just to take me back to my happy place, just to remind me of childhood. And I'm so thankful that on the Criterion set that released all of them, they have the English dub of this particular one. They don't have the dub for all of them, but they have it for this one. And I put that, I don't care. I put it on and it just reminds me of watching it on VHS as a kid. But that's not overall what this list is about. It's about the design in general. So for me, I think this is another kind of middle of the road one, but I do like it better than the Gigan one. So I think I'm going to put it up in Monster Island tier. And I mean, it is a little bit more child friendly than the other one, so I guess I'll put it there. I'll put it Monster Island tier, where I like it. I like it quite a bit, but not one of the best. And next one here looks to be the Godzilla from the Marvel Comics from back in the day. I have not read that particular run, and the thing that I don't like about this design is that he looks way too much like a dinosaur. And I know that Godzilla is obviously like reminiscent of a dinosaur, reminiscent of a dragon, but when some art depictions show him to be a little bit too close to a dinosaur as opposed to giving him his sort of signature Godzilla look, right? Like if you just draw a T-Rex with spikes on its back, that's not enough to be Godzilla for me. Nothing against the artwork in general, but I'm going to put it down in Army Tank tier because it's like, you know, this is sort of like the bare bones idea of what you think Godzilla is. Instead of looking at an actual design and trying to recreate it, it's like, let's just make a dinosaur and put spikes on its back. It's not enough for me, all right? I kind of feel the same way about the next one. So this is the Hanna-Barbera cartoon of Godzilla, which I did watch a lot as a kid. I know it came out in the 70s, but there were a lot of reruns of it. I think on Cartoon Network, it came out at like, I even remember, it came out at like 9 or 9:30 in the morning when I was a kid. And I loved it back then because I loved Godzilla, you know? Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathes fire, he stands in the sky. Why do I remember that? I don't know. I'm a fucking nerd. But listen, again, this is very much a dinosaur with spikes on its back vibe. In this version, he really does breathe fire. It's not atomic breath. It's like straight up fire. He also shoots lasers out of his eyes. Why? I don't know. But I do like it more than the other two here. I guess I don't know, man. This one's difficult. I guess because of the same idea, like it's a dinosaur design, I'll put it in Army Tank tier. But I have fond memories of the show. I probably wouldn't like it as much if I watched it now as an adult, but I have fond memories of it. Then we get to the 1984 Godzilla, and this is another one for me where I like the redesign because they went back to making Godzilla more of an antagonist. They made him look mean and nasty. I love the kind of black charcoal, you know, scale skin that he has. But I don't think they quite got there yet. I think the next couple Heisei designs were much better, and mostly it comes down to the face. And maybe it's just how the animatronics looked, but his eyes are just sometimes not even. They're kind of like looking in opposite directions. They just didn't quite get there yet. I love the Heisei design, but the first version of it just doesn't quite get there for me. So I'm going to put it down in Zillion tier, but I'll put it above the other that one there. So yeah, I know some people are going to get mad at me for that too, but you know, it's my list, whatever. The next one, of course, from Godzilla vs. Biollante, I think this is where they were starting to get better at the design. They were starting to perfect the design. They give him very much like a cat-like face, which is interesting. I also heard that the director of -1 and the director of Godzilla Kong: The New Empire both modeled some of Godzilla's mannerisms on their cat. So, you know, Godzilla's very cat-like, unsuspectingly. This one is good. Again, I think they perfected it in the next movie. Biollante is one of my favorite films. But, you know, I think they got a little bit better, but I still think this one's great, so I'm going to put it up in Titan tier. The next one, though, this is more of the traditional Heisei design through the next few movies, and this one, I think, is going to go up into Screonk tier, and I'm going to put this one right behind the original Godzilla. I think that this image of the Heisei Godzilla is just iconic. It's the one that I think has the most art. It's the one that has it's the one that's painted on the side of the Toho studios and everything. It's kind of ironically, it's kind of the Godzilla that we most recognize, even though it's not one of the more classic Godzillas. It's sort of that era of Godzilla where we, stuck with a design pretty much through the entire series, the entire Heisei series, unlike the Showa era. You can see like little differences here, but like mostly we stuck with this design. So I actually had to look these next two up, and I guess there were more variation within the Heisei design than I was really realizing moving forward, because this first one here is from Mechagodzilla 2, and the next one is from Space Godzilla, and they did change the design of the facial features a little bit. It's not really, I mean, the Space Godzilla one I can see a lot more, but it's not really enough to really change my opinion too much of it. So I guess both of these I'll put into Titan tier, kind of right behind the Biolante. Now I'll put this one up here, and then the Space Godzilla one I'm actually going to move down to the next tier, because that's the one where I can definitely see the design in the face change a little bit, and it looks a little less authentic than the previous versions. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's not as silly as like the Son of Godzilla design, but it seems like it was being a little bit friendlier. I don't know how to describe it, but just doesn't quite work for me the same way. I think these are the top. The Bato Goji is the top Heisei design, with these two as a quick second and third. Up until we get to Desu Goji here from Godzilla vs. Destroya, which is the burning Godzilla, is how I know it, where Godzilla is about to explode, about to become his own nuclear destruction. And I mean, this design is just badass, man. It's just really cool to see Godzilla take it in this direction, where he's constantly steaming, he's constantly about to explode, his eyes are orange. The atomic breath also has that red-orange destruction to it. It's in one of the best Godzilla movies, Godzilla vs. Destroya, and it was the end of an era, man. It was the end of the Heisei era. I love this design so much that I think that I do have to put it up in Screenk tier as well. I'm going to put it just below the kind of Bato Goji, kind of traditional Heisei design, because I think Destroya, the Burning Godzilla version, you have to already appreciate the kind of base design of the Heisei Godzilla to really appreciate the Burning Godzilla aspect of the next design. But I think they're right there, right neck and neck. I wouldn't want to see Burning Godzilla in every Godzilla movie, but for a special occasion, for an iconic, finale to a series, I think it works perfectly, and it's definitely one that I will remember forever. All right, now we get to the one that I'm sure you're the most curious about, the 1998 TriStar Godzilla. Now, I was 9 years old when this movie came out, so obviously as a child, I very much enjoyed it. I even had the big Godzilla figure that you could like push the buttons and swing his tail and move his arms and stuff. It was great. But, it is not particularly what we want in a Godzilla movie. Godzilla's really small. He looks more like a T-Rex. He doesn't really breathe fire, except maybe kinda. I don't really know what he was doing there. And he's destroyed by missiles in the military. Misses the point completely about what Godzilla is. Although I do really like that first scene where you don't get a good look at him after he rides with the fisherman, when he rises out of the water for the first time. I've always really enjoyed that scene. I think it holds up pretty well. But besides that, yeah, not what we want from a Godzilla movie, not what we want from a Godzilla design. Anyways, this is going in Army Tank tier, man. I will put it, I guess, I'm going to put it below the Hanna-Barbera. And then they made an animated version of it. Once again, the cartoon was pretty cool. Better than the movie, as some would say. And but it's essentially the same design. They don't really tweak it too much. I mean, they do a little bit, but essentially it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to put it down in Army Tank tier. Now we get to what might be another controversial one. This is the Millennium era Godzilla. And I really love this design. I love how mean and nasty he looks. I love the jagged spikes. Yeah, it's a little over-exaggeratory. I definitely admit that, but I really loved the Godzilla 2000 design. I loved the movie when it first came out, and one of the things that really drew me to it was just how awesome Godzilla looked. And again, it's not a Godzilla design I would like to see all the time, but I really like it and I really appreciate it for what it is. To me, I'm going to put it up at the Titan tier, and this might upset some people. I'm going to put it at the top of the Titan tier. I almost thought about putting it in Screenk tier, but Titan tier I feel like is where it deserves to be, but at the top of the Titan tier. Next with GMK, the GMK Godzilla. I don't know if you guys can see because my image is small, but I have a GMK poster behind me. One of my favorite Godzilla films. When it comes to Godzilla's design, I think the coolest thing about it is the white eyes and just how evil and soulless he looks. And this is a Godzilla that is not to be messed with, that absolutely wreaks havoc in the best possible way. He does have a little bit of a beer belly, but I won't hold that against him. You know, he was out of commission for a while. So to me, again, I think it deserves to be in Titan tier, not quite up to Skreok tier, but I'm going to put it also above the King Kong versus Godzilla design. So I'm going to put him right there. This is the Godzilla from the Kiryu, Mechagodzilla movies, some of the best Godzilla movies of the Millennium era, or just in general, you could say. Very, very similar to the Mayor Goji. Sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong. I always call them something different. I always think Heisei Godzilla, Millennium Godzilla. Very rarely do I go by their suit name, so I apologize for my ignorance in that regard. But one that I really like, and very, very similar to the 2000 Godzilla, just a little bit different. The facial features are quite different, but overall, I think for me, I'm going to put this one in, I'll still put it in Titan tier, but I'm going to put it below GMK. I think that, like, the fully realized Millennium Godzilla design for me is this one, and Kiryu is just like a little bit lesser. And then when it comes to the Final Wars Godzilla, the lean, mean machine himself, this suit is very lean because he does a lot of fighting. I've always really enjoyed this design as well. I don't think it's one of the best, but I like it a lot. I might actually also, man, I might have to put this in Titan tier also. I really like it, man. I love the Millennium designs are just great. Yeah, but I'll put them back here because I do like these two Heisei designs more. So I'm going to put them back there. Now, this next one is interesting that this is on here. This is from a cameo appearance. The guy that ended up directing Godzilla -1 actually put Godzilla, I believe, in a dream sequence. I've never seen this movie before, but I've seen the clip of the Godzilla sequence. He's only on screen for like 30 seconds, but it's a CGI Godzilla. He looks pretty good, but I don't think, there's enough there to really rank him properly. So, like, I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just that we don't really get a solid look at him other than a couple of seconds. So because of that, I'll put it up in the zillion tier. I mean, I liked it. I like the design. You could definitely tell how he expanded upon that when he went and did Godzilla -1, but there's just not enough of it, to really gauge how I feel about it. The next one is the legendary Godzilla, at least Godzilla as far as in the 2014 version. I really like this design. I love how powerful he feels, like how big and bulky he is. It does make him move rather slowly, but there's something about that I enjoy as well. Of course, a lot of it is shrouded in complete darkness and cut away from every single time that you see him, but that's another problem that, I won't hold against it. I think this one is good. I'm going to put him up in Monster Island tier, and I'm going to put him right about there. All right, now we have the various forms of Shin Godzilla. If you guys don't know, Shin Godzilla is also one of my favorite Godzilla films. I love it so much. I love how terrifying it is. And the Shin Godzilla designs are just pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. Particularly his final design. These first two, the first one is when he comes out of the water, starts terrorizing the shoreline. Very, very creepy. I love how it just seems like a creature that's like, I don't know where the fuck I am. I don't know what's going on, and just like stomping around, which is how I feel most of the time when I'm out in public. But I think that this one's going to go Cillian tier for me. I'll put it above the cameo appearance. The next one gets a little bit better, although a little silly with like the eyes just kind of gouging out, but also has a little bit of a creepy factor to him as well. I'll put this up in Cillian 2, or you know what? Yeah, I'll put this one in Monster Island. I'll put it at the low Monster Island, but the final Shin Godzilla form, again, just like with Burning Godzilla, it's not a Godzilla I'd like to see all the time, but just for a unique design shift and just making him look as terrifying as possible, I do think it is pretty much the scariest Godzilla design. I love it to death. I think that movie is absolutely incredible, even better than some people give it credit for. And I think that, recently there's been a lot of like detractors of Shin Godzilla. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's too goofy, too cheesy. I'm like, what are you talking about? But anyways, for me personally, Shin Godzilla is up there. I'm going to put it right below Burning Godzilla. Actually, you know what? I lied. I'm going to put him behind. I like the Mothra Godzilla more. I'm going to put him behind there. Okay. All right. Now I'm good. The next one is from the Netflix animated Godzillas, which, you know, those movies, I love the idea of them, but I'm not a fan of the animation style. And ultimately, they do unfortunately end up being kind of boring. The Godzilla in them, you know, is the biggest Godzilla by far, and I do like the concept that they go with, where he is more of like literally a force of nature, just like a giant, almost immovable mountain that has existed for so many years at this point. But yeah, the CGI animation never really worked too well for me. I'm gonna put it in Cillian tier. I'm gonna put him. Sometimes, man, some of this ranking is hard, man. I'm gonna put him, I guess, above the first form of Shin Godzilla, but I can't go any higher than that. The next one, Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is pretty similar to the first Legendary. I'm not really quite sure the differences here. Oh, I think they might have changed his body, because I think the people complained that Godzilla's feet were too stumpy in the first one, so they might have changed that. King of the Monsters is still my favorite of the monster verse that they've done so far, so I do like it more than the first iteration. So I'm gonna put this Legendary Godzilla. I'm going to put him, I think that he does qualify for either top of Monster Island, or maybe I'll put him bottom of Titan tier, because Final Wars, I think, still edges out a little bit more for me, but I'll put him up there. So pretty high, pretty high. The next one here, I had to look this one up too. I didn't know what this was from. I've seen this image of Godzilla covered in snow, but I have not seen the movie it's from. So it's from an anime film. Yeah, it's from a movie called Shinkansen Henkei Roba. You probably don't want me to pronounce it, but it's from a movie I've never seen before. Just going by the design, I mean, it's pretty awesome to see Godzilla essentially like half frozen, covered in snow, but I can't give it too much of a ranking because I haven't actually seen it. So for me, I'll put it up in Zillion tier, and I'll put it below, I'll put it above the Netflix movie Godzilla. I'll put him right there. It is really cool. I just don't really, personally, I just don't have enough to go on to really rank it. And then we get the various forms here from Godzilla Singular Point. I'm not going to go too deep into this one. I've watched the anime once when it came out. I did review it on the channel if you want to check it out. I thought it was okay overall. Wasn't a huge fan of it. Personally, in all the animated Godzilla movies and shows out there, I kind of think like the TriStar Godzilla animated series has still been the best as far as quality goes, not design wise. But yeah, these like other forms, I mean, they're okay, but like they're not Godzilla to me. You know what I mean? Like this isn't really Godzilla, and it's a little bit too far away from what I want to see Godzilla be. The bottom two I don't really like at all, I will admit. And I don't even like them as much as the TriStar one, just because they don't even feel like Godzilla to me, even in the slightest. But the next one, this like before the final form, this one's a little bit better. So I'll put this one up in Cillian tier. And then the final version that we get in Singular Point is cool. The mouth is like so exaggeratory though, is the thing that kind of throws me off. But I guess I'll put it right below the movie trilogy Godzilla. It just doesn't really do it for me. There might be some really big fans out there of them, but it just doesn't work for me. The next one here is from that short film where he fought Gigan, which I thought was all right. It was pretty cool. The design is fine. It's serviceable to me, but nothing too special or stand out about it. So I'm going to put it into Zillion tier. I'll put it right below the Snowy Godzilla, because Snowy Godzilla is a little bit cooler. Then we get to, finally, the two most recent movies. Oh, and actually, I got a notification on my phone that I need to show you guys, because this actually happened while I was recording. Okay, so yeah, this just showed up in the mail. I did not plan this, by the way. I did plan to record this video today, but I didn't plan this arrival. So this makes sense for what we're doing here. I need a sharp object. All right, hang on. All right, got it. All right, this just showed up. Look at this, man. It's right here. Yes. Godzilla -1 4K. You know, I'm actually I'm pretty upset because I did pre-order the Steelbook version of this, and the pre-order went through fine, and then I got an email a couple of days ago from Amazon that said, "We are sorry, we cannot fulfill your order. It will not be charged." and essentially like I'm not getting the Steelbook now. So now it says the Steelbook is out of stock and not arriving, even though I pre-ordered it. So I was a little bit annoyed. So since it didn't charge me for the Steelbook, I went and got the just the 4K standard version, you know, the basic bitch version. But pretty stoked that this showed up, man. It showed up right when I was recording a video about Godzilla, so that's got to be some kind of sign. Awesome, awesome. Cannot wait to rewatch it, man. Speaking of Godzilla Minus One, really great design. Not going to spend too much time on this one. I think it's pretty fantastic. I'm just trying to decide if I want to put it into Screonk tier or Titan tier. It's a little bit on the verge for me. So, but I do think it's great. So you know what? I'm going to put it up in Screonk tier. And then finally, the Godzilla Kong New Empire look where he absorbs Tiamat's power, becomes the kind of pink neon Godzilla. I like it, man. I think these kind of ideas are fun where we have Godzilla power up or look a little bit different, change the design up. You know, he's kind of sleeker, he's leaner. I don't think it's as good maybe as their traditional design, but I like it a lot. So yeah, I'm going to put it up in Titan tier. I'm going to put it right behind the regular legendary Godzilla design. So there you go, guys. There's my ranking, which I'm sure will not be controversial at all, and people will totally agree with me. But this is just my list. So let me know your top favorite suits or favorite designs down below. But this is what I'm going to go with as far as my favorite ranking. And thank you guys so much for being supportive, man. I knew the last video, I didn't think it would do very well, but you guys made it worth it. The comments make it worth it. The support makes it worth it. And at the end of the day, I want to make the kind of videos I want to make. I think these videos are fun and they help kind of break up the monotony of working on the bigger, longer, more in-depth videos. Sometimes it's just fun to kick back and do a little bit of a ranking just to kind of break up working on the big projects, you know? So I like this kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys do as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Give the video a thumbs up, a like, and a comment to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support on a deeper level, feel free to leave a super thanks if you want to, or sign up to the Patreon channel membership and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you later.